Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to begin by acknowledging your role in this. When we started noticing that we were just dumping money into an account instead of doing work on behalf of the public, you and I had some good conversations, and we were able to get here. I also want to acknowledge your courage. It's been a few years since there have been leadership on Toronto City Council that's been able to say hiring public employees to deliver services is a good thing. It's been a little while. I also think it's very important that we acknowledge the planning staff, the frontline planning staff, who, from what we can tell here, for 2 years have essentially been carrying on their backs, volunteering overtime, the burden of historically high growth in the City of Toronto, matched with an austerity agenda which prevented us from having the staff in place to manage that historically high growth. My deep thanks to frontline staff who, quite frankly, have been giving their free time unpaid to try to manage a crisis in the City of Toronto. I think it's also worth noting that this is an example of where the efficient thing to do is not to sit around counting the number of staff we have and trying to find a smaller number. This is an example where a smaller number of staff has led to a huge inefficiency. It's worth remembering that when we don't get our applications reviewed in time and the applicant goes to the board, the Ontario Municipal Board, that staff time is no longer covered by the development application fee. Time spent at the board comes right out of the tax base. So by restricting the number of staff, we have been increasing the cost to the public. It's an example of where austerity and simple body counting that has been the mode of operation around this place for the last 6 years has been costing the public money and leading to worse outcomes. I hope that Councillor Shiner's leadership here begins to create a bit of a sea change in how we think about delivering public services in the City of Toronto, so that instead of just saying, oh, we're cutting staff, so therefore we're delivering good to the public, we're actually focusing on the services that make Toronto a better place to live. And I want to thank particularly members of the community who came out and made it clear that the lived experience of the public is that when we don't provide services, we don't get good outcomes. That's the kind of message that I hope the leadership of this council hears, so that we can begin to turn the ship around and actually do the things that not only maintain the quality of life in the City of Toronto, but plan for the future of quality of life in the City of Toronto. And nothing we've done this term, I think, has been as important in delivering that. Certainly not just launching mega projects and having press conferences, as actually putting public servants in place to meet the standards that Torontonians expect us to meet. So I'll certainly be supporting your motions, Mr. Chair.